They thought she couldn't see a thing, but she saw everything, even the blood on their hands. The villagers of Oduma believed in spirits. Not the kind that floated in the night or whispered through trees, no, theirs were flesh-bound, hidden behind smiles and laughter. They believed that evil didn't come from the forest, it came from within. And in a place where everyone wore masks, Nia chose to blindfold herself. She was only 17 when she started pretending to be blind. Her mother, Zuina, had died suddenly, her body found floating near the riverbank with no bruises, no blood, just silence. The elders called it a drowning, but Nia knew her mother had feared water. She never bathed in the river, never even fetched water past sundown. Something was wrong. But Oduma was not a place for questions. That's when Nia made a decision that would change her life and the village forever. She walked into the town square one humid morning, white cloth wrapped around her eyes, tapping a stick in front of her like a blind girl learning to walk again. The women cried. The men whispered. And the chief's second son, Mosi, clucked his tongue and offered her his arm like a gentleman. No one asked questions. They simply pitied her. In a village like Oduma, being blind was easier than being curious. But Nia wasn't blind. She was hunting. Every day, behind that cloth, her sharp brown eyes watched everything. Every footstep. Every whispered conversation. Every secret. And what she saw confirmed the fear in her bones. Her mother hadn't drowned. She had been silenced. Mosi visited often. Too often. He'd bring sweet mangoes, dried cassava, sometimes even trinkets made from cowrie shells. He spoke with charm, but his eyes were hollow. Like he was always checking the shadows. Nia noticed something else too. He never brought the gifts to her hand directly. He always placed them on a cloth in front of her, as if afraid of touching her skin. One night, she followed him. Yes, blind girls don't follow people, but Nia moved through the dark like a whisper. She knew every bend of Oduma, every sound. Behind her blindfold, her eyes narrowed as she saw Mosi slip into the forbidden hut near the edge of the village. The same hut her mother used to warn her about, the place where good girls never go. She crouched in the bushes, heart pounding like a drum. Through a crack in the hut's wooden walls, she saw them, Chief Baraka, Mosi, and 3 masked men sitting in a circle. In the center, on a dirty mat, lay something wrapped in banana leaves. They unwrapped it. Her mother's necklace. The one she'd been buried with. Nia's breath caught in her throat. Her fingers dug into the soil beneath her. She had to know more, but one wrong move, one snapped twig, and it would be her next. So she crawled back, slow as a snake, and ran home once the coast was clear. The next morning, she added a twist to her act. She began shaking, muttering, talking to spirits in her sleep. The villagers believed her now more than ever. They whispered that her blindness had given her second sight. Some even began calling her the oracle's child. She used that fear. She told the elders she had seen a river filled with bones. She told them the earth whispered her name every night. She said she heard a mother calling out for justice. And just like that, Oduma began to shift. Eyes turned toward Chief Baraka. Mosi started avoiding the square. But Nia wasn't done. She would not stop until her mother's killers paid with their blood or their souls. And this was just the beginning. The morning after her vision talk spread like wildfire, the village of Oduma transformed into a strange silence. Children played quieter. Women fetching water paused near her hut, whispering. Even the drummers at dusk played softer, their rhythms hesitant, uncertain. But the chief's compound. It roared. Chief Baraka summoned the elders. Mosi paced like a trapped lion. Nia knew her words had struck fear where it mattered. That night, under the cover of darkness, a quiet knock rattled her door. She didn't flinch. She had been expecting them. "Who's there?" she said, keeping her voice soft, her blindfold tied snug. "It's me. Ajoni." Ajoni was the village healer's apprentice, a quiet boy with a crooked smile and 1,000 questions. He was one of the few people who never treated her like glass after she'd lost her sight. She opened the door slightly. "Come." He stepped in, his face tense, eyes darting. "They know, Nia. They know you're pretending." She froze. "They saw your shadow moving, too sure. Too fast." Mosi told the chief you aren't really blind. He's trying to convince them you're dangerous, possessed. Her heart pounded. What did they say? Some believe him. But others are scared. Not of you, of what you know. Of what they think the spirits might reveal through you. Good, she thought. Let them fear me. She closed the door behind him, sat on the floor, and reached for her hidden stash under the mat, small pouches of crushed herbs, bits of charcoal, dried lizard tails, old remedies her mother used. She handed one to Ajoni. "If they want to see madness, I'll show them something they'll never forget." Ajoni blinked. "You're going to fight them?" "No," her voice was low. "I'm going to make them see what they did. Even if I have to pull the truth out with my bare hands." That night, Nia smeared charcoal over her face, let her hair loose like a madwoman, and painted her heart with symbols no one dared question. Then, at dawn, she limped into the village square, stick tapping, voice shaking. She dropped to her knees, screaming. The river cries. The bones whisper. She is not resting, Zuina cannot rest. The villagers gathered. Whispers turned into panic. Some wept. Others clutched charms and amulets. Mosi came storming forward. Enough of this madness. She lies. She is not blind. Look at how she walks, how she sees. But Nia didn't flinch. Instead, she stood slowly, lifted her blindfold just slightly, only enough for the crowd to catch a glimpse of her open, piercing eyes, and then quickly dropped it again. Gasps exploded. She has seen. The spirits speak through her, an old woman shouted. Mosi's face turned pale. The chief stood then, tall and proud, but his voice cracked. If she speaks lies, let her prove them. Let her call the spirits before us. Nia smiled inwardly. Perfect. I will, she said. But only if we meet where Zuina died. Dead silence. Even the wind stopped. That night, under the full moon, the villagers gathered by the river. The water glowed silver. Nia stepped forward, blindfolded, barefoot, wrapped in her mother's old shawl. She poured herbs into the water, chanted words passed down by her mother. And then, she began to speak. She was taken at night, hands around her throat, someone she trusted, someone who feared her knowledge. Gasps echoed. She turned toward the chief. She found your secret. The hidden heart. The packages. She heard your plans, to sell the sacred land to outsiders in exchange for gold. She was going to tell. Mosi shouted, lies. This is trickery. But before anyone could move, Ajoni stepped forward. I saw the ledger, he said, voice shaking. It's hidden in the chief's private hut. Written in his own hand. Zuina wrote about it in her herbal notes, I found them days ago. The crowd erupted. Screaming. Crying. Accusations. Chief Baraka's guards tried to silence Ajoni, but the villagers pushed back. Suddenly, the old fears turned into rage. Truth, once feared, had finally found its voice. And Nia, still blindfolded, stood calmly in the middle of it all. She had exposed the beast without ever lifting a sword. But it wasn't over. By morning, the entire village buzzed like a hornet's nest struck by lightning. Some elders called it justice. Others called it rebellion. But all agreed on one thing: the girl who was once seen as helpless now stood as a threat. Nia, the so-called blind girl, had shattered the silence of Oduma. The chief had vanished into his compound, his guards doubling at every corner. Mosi hadn't been seen since the night at the river. And Nia? She was being watched, not by one, but by many. People came to her door whispering apologies, offerings of fruits and herbs. A few begged her to speak to the spirits for their sick children or broken marriages. But the truth was, Nia wasn't a spirit medium. She was just a daughter who wanted justice. Ajoni visited her every night now. He brought food, news, and plans. He had found the ledger she mentioned, the proof that the chief had been selling off village land to foreign merchants for gold and strange powders. Zuwina had found out, written about it in her private journal, and 2 days later, she was dead. She was going to expose them, Nia whispered, fingers trembling over the ink-stained papers. And now, I must finish what she started. But we need more than just words, Ajoni said. They'll say it's forged. They'll say you wrote it yourself. No, Nia's voice grew dark. There's one more person who knows what happened. One who helped the chief. Ajoni frowned. Who? She leaned closer. My aunt. Aunt Komira had raised Nia after her mother died. A quiet woman, always in the background, always watching. But lately, Nia remembered strange things, the way Komira had avoided her eyes the night Suwina died. The night she returned from the river with her hands shaking, her eyes red, not from grief, but from guilt. Nia had to confront her. The next morning, she walked alone to Komira's hut. Blindfold on, staff tapping, yet every step was precise. Komira opened the door slowly. Nia, why are you here? I need the truth. Komira froze. Child. Don't lie to me. You were there. The night my mother died. Tears welled in the woman's eyes. I tried to stop them. I tried to warn her. But she wouldn't listen. She went to the chief. She said she would go to the council. She believed they'd protect her. She died because she trusted them, Nia said coldly. And you said nothing. I was scared. Nia stepped forward. You were her sister. Silence. Komira sank to the floor, sobbing. I didn't know they'd kill her. I thought maybe they'd just exile her. I begged Mosi. I told him. Nia's heart dropped. Mosi. He was part of it too. Komira nodded slowly. It was his idea. Your mother had raised him like her own. But he said she was ruining everything. He wanted power. And now I see what he became. Nia stood in the middle of the hut, blindfold fluttering slightly from her breath. Then help me. Tell the council. Testify. I'm old, Komira whispered. And I'm tired of being afraid. Nia knelt beside her aunt, voice trembling but strong. Then let me be your voice. We have the ledger. We have the necklace. We have you. That's all we need. Komira looked into the face of the girl she had raised and saw not a blind child, but a storm that would not be stopped. Fine, she said. I'll speak. But the chief had already heard the whispers. That night, as Nia and Ajoni prepared their plan to present their evidence to the council the next day, something shifted. Smoke. Then fire. Komira's hut was in flames. Nia ran, blindfold flying off her face. Villagers screamed, buckets flew, but it was too late. Chimera's body was dragged out by the shoulder, lifeless. Murder. Again. Ajani grabbed Nia before she ran into the fire. Now you know, he said bitterly. They will kill anyone who stands with you. But Nia didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stared into the flames, her mother's words echoing in her head. In a village of cowards, the truth must roar like thunder. And in that moment, Nia made a choice. She wouldn't run. She would bring the thunder. They buried Chimera at the edge of the forest, near the giant baobab tree where Zuwina used to tell stories. There were no drums. No chants. Just silence. A silence so loud it felt like the earth itself was grieving. The villagers stood at a distance, watching. Nia didn't cry. Not this time. The fire that took Chimera hadn't just burned wood, it had scorched what little innocence remained in her heart. She stood tall in front of the fresh grave, no blindfold, no cane, no act. She looked directly at the crowd. At the chief's guards. At the elders. And then she said, I am not blind. And I'm not afraid anymore. Her voice was sharp. Piercing. A voice meant to slice through generations of fear. Some gasped. Others backed away, crossing themselves or clutching charms. But no one stopped her. That evening, Nia and Ajani marched straight to the council hut, the sacred place where village matters were judged. Nia carried her mother's journal, the chief's ledger, and the scorched remains of Chimera's prayer beads. The council, a circle of 6 elders, sat stiffly as Nia entered. Chief Baraka was already seated at the head, his robe spotless, his face unreadable. Elder Oyo, the oldest, raised a hand. Nia, daughter of Zuwina. Why have you come here without being summoned? I bring truth, she said. The room stirred. Nia laid out the items on the floor, one by one. This, she said, holding up the journal, is my mother's account of the deals made between our chief and the merchants who seek to own our land. She lifted the ledger. This is the chief's record of gold received. Bribes taken. Forest land traded. And finally, she held up Chimera's burned prayer beads. And this is what they did to the last person who dared confirm it. The elders glanced at one another, shifting in their seats. Chief Baraka didn't move. She lies, he said. She seeks to divide Oduma. I pretended to be blind for a year, Nia said, stepping forward. I watched. I listened. I followed. I know what you did. I know how my mother died. And now the whole village will know too. Mosi burst into the chamber. She's possessed, he shouted. She's using dark spirits to turn you all against our chief. But his panic was too late. Behind him, the villagers were gathering. More than 50 had crowded outside the council hut, listening. Watching. Eyes once filled with pity now burned with curiosity and doubt. Ajani stepped forward, speaking loud enough for all to hear. The ledger is real. I read every page. I compared the chief's signature with the council logs, they match. The merchants have already marked out land near the sacred grove. And your chief took payment to allow it. Gasps broke through the crowd. The chief stood now, voice thunderous. This is treason. But Elder Oyo raised his hand. No, Baraka. What's treason is selling the land of our ancestors behind our backs. The chief's face went pale. Then, chaos. One of the chief's guards reached for his spear, but another villager tackled him. Screams erupted. More guards ran in, but this time, the people fought back. A stone hit Mosi square in the chest. He fell, gasping. A woman slapped another guard with her sandal. The elders tried to restore order, but the dam had broken. Years of fear, lies, and betrayal had turned into rage. In the middle of it all, Nia stood unmoving. The chief tried to escape through the back of the hut, but Ajoni blocked him. "You won't leave this place," he said. "You don't know what you're doing, boy," Baraka snarled. "I kept this village safe." "No," Ajoni replied, his voice calm. "You kept it silent." Then came the final blow. Elder Oyo turned to the villagers and raised his voice. "Chief Baraka is hereby stripped of his title. He will be held until further judgment by the council. The girl who sees the truth, Nia, will now stand as the voice of Zuwina, whose wisdom and warnings were ignored." It was done. Baraka was dragged away. Mosi was beaten and taken to the healer's hut under guard. And Nia stood taller than ever. But as the village slowly returned to calm, one thought haunted her heart. Justice was not the end. It was only the beginning. Because power never disappears, it only hides in new faces. In the weeks that followed Chief Baraka's fall, Oduma breathed like a village that had forgotten how to sleep peacefully. The night drums returned. Children played again. And the market square filled with chatter that wasn't soaked in fear. People called it a new dawn. But Nia didn't feel dawn. She felt washed. Though Baraka and Mosi had been imprisoned in the sacred hut under council orders, Nia noticed strange things: guards replaced without notice, villagers who used to support her now keeping their distance. Even Ajoni had grown more cautious. She sat outside her mother's hut one morning, staring at the old river path, when Ajoni arrived with a folded letter. "They are coming," he said. "Who?" "The merchants." Nia's jaw clenched. "They sent word. They say they already paid. They want what was promised." The council had denied it at first, but one of the elders, Elder Jumo, the youngest, had started speaking in defense of the deals. "Progress," he called it. "We can't remain in the past," he said during one meeting. That's when Nia knew. The chief had fallen, but his shadow had taken root elsewhere. One night, while villagers celebrated a full moon festival, Nia slipped into Elder Jumo's hut. She found what she feared: new ledgers, new gold pieces, and worse, a letter bearing a merchant seal, offering Jumo double the price for the same lands Baraka had promised. So it was never about one man. It was about greed. Nia stood before the council the next day, fire back in her eyes. "You replaced the chief," she said, "but you kept the disease." Elder Jumo rose, pretending calm. "You have no right to accuse me without proof." She threw the letter onto the floor. "You traded our future for gold. You'll sell the land Zuwina died to protect. You didn't remove the monster, you just cut off its head and wore the skin." The council erupted. Some elders gasped. Others shifted uncomfortably. Elder Oyo, face heavy with shame, rose slowly. "The girl has uncovered the truth again. And this time, it is worse. It shows that our wrath is not one man, but many." The villagers were called once more to the square. Nia stood before them, again, but this time, with no drama, no blindfold, no pretense. Only truth. "You trusted me once," she said, "not because I was strong, but because I dared to see what others pretended not to. Now I ask you, don't follow me. Follow your eyes. Watch what's being done. Question what's being said. Protect what cannot speak for itself: the forest, the river, your children. Because greed will return in a new name, in a new smile, with a sweeter tongue, but the same hunger." A silence followed. Not of fear this time, but of awakening. By dusk, Elder Jumo was removed. The council voted to ban any further trade of sacred lands without a village-wide vote. And Nia. She was offered a seat on the council. But she declined. "I don't want power," she said. "I want to remain the one who watches. Because someone must always be watching." She returned to her mother's hut that night, sat by the fire, and for the first time in many months, cried without shame. Not because of pain, but because she had kept her mother's spirit alive. And Oduma. It never became perfect. But it changed. Because one girl decided to stop pretending. Call to action. If this story moved you, if Nia's courage made you feel something. Backhand index pointing right, don't just scroll. Share this story. Let it remind someone that truth may walk blindfolded, but it always sees. Fire follow for more real, raw African tales like this, where voices rise, and silence is broken.